Ed Golod back on speed casting here with Al West, my unicorn builder. I love that title. Anyway, Al, how are you?
I'm well, Ed. How about yourself?
Good, good. So today we want to talk about, hey, I'm running a startup. I'm really smart. I'm out of the US, Tel Aviv, Sydney. I have amazing tech, AI that's going to change the world. How do you build a unicorn model, but work with what you have, knowing you just can't hire and blow out a lot of spending because of valuation decreasing?
It all starts with the disruption factor. If your disruption factor is high, then you have a high probability of hitting that unicorn valuation. If you don't have a high disruption factor, then no matter what you do, you're going to struggle for relevancy to hit that slipstream where you can ultimately get the high valuations. And in order to do that, there's a lot of things that have to happen. But number one is hyper growth. That is the number one thing that investors look at when they place valuations on companies. And if you're in that slipstream, you have to get in a slipstream in order to hit that valuation. And in order to hit that slipstream, you have to have a very high disruption factor. So that's first and foremost.
Let's go back to this for a minute. I understand disruption factor to be where you have disruptive technology. You're changing, you have a paradigm shift in changing. What happens if you're selling something, AI, machine learning, CPQ, new form of AI balanced ERP, and it's not disruptive, but it's really, really good? What happens then?
Well, if the disruption factor is not as high, you're clamoring, you have to get above the noise. And that makes it extremely difficult to get into a slipstream. And what I mean by that is the demand is there, it's pulling you versus you pushing to get demand.
Right.
You have to have that natural pull for whatever you're selling. And that's easier said than done. There's not a lot of marketing magic that can take place. There just has to be a unique combination of the market factors and the market not being served, and something that comes into the market that can serve a previous segment of the market that wasn't being served. Now, I know this all sounds just like motherhood and apple pie, but it all fundamentally starts with, hey, I've got a good product, but if you've got a good product, you have to make it better. You have to actually, to get that demand curve working to pull you into the demand, you actually have to start thinking of disruption. And it's so critical.
You're spot on, because every vendor listening has technology and they have some form of exclusivity or differential because that's what the way the world is. And I've seen so many companies not standing tall on, we do this very different in a crowded space, and then going to market, getting someone like you to advise them, doing it on video, blowing it out with hyper personalization on LinkedIn. You're right. So what you're really saying is you sort of have to amp up not just your unique factor and not write your code over, but you have to take that and drive it forward. And that's sort of the beginning DNA of this thing, right?
You do. And there's a lot of promise in these new technologies. I say new, and they're really not new. It's interesting that artificial intelligence has been around since the 80s. A lot of people don't realize that. They think it's this new thing that only happened in the 2000s. This is the fifth generation of artificial intelligence that we're in. So there's a world of opportunity for these companies that can automate things that were previously not automatable, if that's a word. You weren't able to automate some of these functions.
Yeah.
And the value now is exponential or is potentially exponential. And in order to capitalize on that, you have to disrupt not only a market where there's a lot of noise and you have to rise above that noise, but your disruption factor has to be something that obviously is a unique to you, but it also has to be something that exceeds the normal value process, and it disrupts that whole value paradigm, because everybody is preaching value. And it's like, if I'm the only player in a market that can do X and you can articulate that value of X, that's where you're going to get a slipstream.
And that's the money moment. This is the Jerry Maguire money moment. We started with work with what you have, and you're right. Because building value is not for kids. Put your pajamas on and go back to sleep if you can't do financial modeling. And I know you do this, by the way, because I've been with you for years. So work with what you have, do better market segmentation, and stand tall and let all executives know that you guys have a differential. You're right. Sometimes the basics in life are the best. This has been another segment. We're going to do a million of these. I love this idea of how to build a unicorn, especially in a recession. I think there's a capture rate. So this has been Ed Golod at Speedcasting Revenue Accelerators here with
Al West.
there you go. Thanks
Unicorn
so
Builder.
much. See you in a minute.